So in this video, I'm going to show you how to solve proportions when you have an unknown variable. But before that, we need to review the basic concept of proportion. A proportion is an equation stating that two ratios or rates are equal. So for example, we can have 2 over 3 equals 4 over 6. In this example, this is a proportion and it shows two ratios are equal. The first ratio is 2 to 3 and the second ratio is 4 to 6. And we can prove this by scaling up 2 over 3. So we just need to multiply 2 by 2 and 3 by 2. And this is when we scale up. Another example is when we scale down. So another proportion would be, let's say 10 over 15. We can scale it down by simplifying this ratio. So the GCF of 10 and 15 is 5. And I can divide both numerator and denominator by 5. That gives me 2 over 3. So as you see, this is an example of scaling down. We can also write a proportion showing two rates are equal. So for example, 80 miles over 1 hour equals 160 miles over 2 hours. As you see, these two rates are equal when you simplify 160 miles over 2 hours. And this is an example of proportion. So let's solve some proportion problems. I'm always going to show you both methods. The first method is scaling up or scaling down, and the second method is cross multiplication, or we say cross product. So the first example is x over 4 equals 7 over 20. Our goal is to solve for x. In this case, I want to see what number do I get when I divide 20 by 4. And in this case, I will get 5. So if I go from right to left, I am scaling down. That means I also need to divide 7 by 5. So x equals 7 divided by 5, which equals 1.4. You can also scale up instead. So instead of saying divided by 5, I will erase this. And then I will get 4 times 5 equals 20. That means I need to guess x times what number times 5 equals 7. So I will still show the same work at the bottom, which is 7 divided by 5, and I get 1.4. And on the right side, let's show cross multiplication. So in this case, I want to first cross multiply x and 20, and I write x times 20 on the left. And then I will cross multiply 4 and 7. So I write 4 times 7 on the right side. Then I bring down the equal sign in the middle. So usually we want to write the number in the front and the variable after that. So instead I will write 20 times x or 20x. 20 is called the coefficient in this case. And 4 times 7 is 28. And again, I bring down the equal sign. So now we need to solve the one-step equation, 20x equals 28. Since it's multiplication right here, we have to use the inverse operation, which is division. Basically, we need to apply division property of equality by dividing 20 on both sides. The reason is because we want to isolate x. So 20 divided by 20 gives us 1. So 1 times x is still x. And 28 divided by 20 is 1.4. So we get the same answer, which is x equals 1.4. The next example is 6.8 over t equals 34 over 50. And this time we want to solve for t, or isolate t. So on the left side, we need to either scale up or scale down. If I go from right to left, I need to figure out what's 34 divided by 6.8, and that would be 5. So 34 divided by 5 is 6.8. So I will need to do the same for the bottom. That means t equals 50 divided by 5, and t equals 10. If I show the scaling up way, then I would instead go from left to right. So 6.8 times 5 equals 34. And t times 5 equals 50. And again, I will show that t equals 50 divided by 5. On the right side, we need to cross multiply. So I would first cross multiply the one of the variables. So 34 times t. Copy it down. And bring down the equal sign. And then I will cross multiply 6.8 times 50. So 6.8 multiplied by 50. I'm showing you two different ways of writing multiplication, but essentially they both mean multiplication. So 6.8 times 50 equals 340. And 34t, we just bring it down. So in this case, we need to solve the one-step equation. 34 times t equals 340. Since this is multiplication, we want to use the inverse operation of multiplication, which is division, by dividing 34 on both sides. We want to divide by 34 instead of 340 is because we want to isolate t. And 34 divided by 34 gives us 1. 340 divided by 34 equals 10. So we still get the same answer, t equals 10. The last example is 7 over 14 equals c over 12. This one is a little bit special. I want to go over the cross multiplication method first, and then go over the scaling up or scaling down method. So by using cross multiplication, I know I first need to multiply either 7 by 12 or multiply 14 by c. I'm going to show you just another way around, so I will multiply 7 by 12 first on the left side. Bring down the equal sign, and then cross multiply 14 and c. So I write 14 times c on the right side. So 7 times 12 equals 84. And I just bring down 14c here, and also bring down the equal sign in the middle. Since this is again multiplication, we are going to divide both sides by 14. Notice this time the variable is on the right side. You always want to observe first, see which number is right next to the variable, meaning multiply by the variable. Then you divide by that number. So in this case, we want to divide both sides by 14 and not by 84. So 14 divided by 14 is 1. And that means this is 1 times c. And 84 divided by 14 is 6. So then I just write down my answer, which is 6 equals c. If you want to write c equals 6, that's also fine. But you want to first write down this step and then write down c equals 6. Okay, so let's go to the left side, scaling up or scaling down. So this one is special because if you just go ahead and divide 14 by 12, you are going to get a repeating decimal, which is 1.16 bar. That means you will have to do the same for the top, which is 7 divided by 1.16 bar. But this is going to be inconvenient for you to do it because you cannot enter repeating decimal in all the calculators. So instead, you want to do an extra step before you scale up or scale down. So let me just erase this first. If you look at the ratio on the left side, 7 over 14, you will see that it's actually not simplified. So I first want to simplify it to 1/2 because 7 divided by 7 is 1, 14 divided by 7 is 2. So I will copy down 1/2 here. So that equals c over 12. Now it's actually easier to solve. We can just scale up. 2 times 6 is 12. So that means 1 times 6 equals 6. And that gives us C equals 6. So when you solve proportions, you always want to use the most efficient way. You don't necessarily have to use cross multiplications, even though that's the method they teach in the textbook. If it takes less time to scale up or scale down, then just use that method.